The sound of Aunt Diane's voice, sweet like cheap candy that leaves a bad taste, slices through the haze. And to top off all the wonderful news today, she chirps, her voice echoing a little too loudly in the over-decorated living room. Our darling Sophia has an announcement. I blink, my eyes focusing on the crystal chandelier, prisms of light dancing across the ceiling. It's my 16th birthday party. Again. The same suffocating floral arrangements, the same polite, strained smiles from relatives I barely know, and now the same declaration that's about to drop like a bomb I've already lived through once. Sophia, my cousin, preens beside her. She's got that coy little smile on her face, the one that always makes me feel like I'm in on a joke I don't find funny. Mark asked me to marry him, she squeals, and the room erupts in a chorus of oohs and ahs. The familiar sting hits me, right in the chest. It's not just that they're hijacking my birthday again. It's the way everyone's eyes slide right past me like I'm a piece of furniture to land on Sophia, the golden girl. My mind, though, it's not the confused, hurt 16-year-olds anymore. It's sharp, clear, flooded with memories of a life I already lived. A life that ended because of this very engagement, this very family. I remember it all. The way this announcement was the starting gun for months of me being their unpaid, unthanked wedding slave. The way I'd be humiliated, demoted to backup bridesmaid at the last minute, and then the crash. Rushing to a wedding that never valued me, a wedding I died trying to get to. Sophia pulls me into a hug, her perfume cloying and artificial. Isn't it wonderful, Maya? She whispers, her voice dripping with condescension. Her touch, that false warmth. It's like a key unlocking a floodgate. The memory crashes over me, vivid and raw. I'm 22, juggling 3 part-time jobs. My hands are raw from addressing hundreds of ivory envelopes, my eyes gritty from lack of sleep. I'd found Sophia's dream venue, a historic mansion with sprawling gardens. It cost a fortune I was helping to scrape together because Aunt Diane had sighed about tight finances while sporting a new diamond bracelet. I'd presented Sophia with the deposit confirmation, a triumphant smile on my face only for her to look at me with that blank, dismissive stare. Oh, Maya, sweetie, she'd said, flipping her perfectly styled hair. That's nice, but Tiffany's mom knows the owner of the country club, and well, Tiffany just offered to be my maid of honor. Her sorority sisters are going to be bridesmaids. It's just a better fit, you know? Replaced, just like that. After months of my life poured into her perfect day. But the venue, the plans? I'd stammered. Don't worry your pretty little head about it, Aunt Diane had cooed, appearing from nowhere as she always did when Sophia needed backup. We'll still need you, of course. You can be the backup bridesmaid, just in case someone drops out. And you're so good with all those little details, you can still help with, well, everything else. The worst part, the memory that still burns like acid, is my parents' faces. When I'd choked back tears and asked them, pleaded with them to see how unfair it was, they'd exchanged that look, that familiar, weary look that always meant I was being difficult. Maya, honey, Dad had said, his voice gentle but firm. Sophia's just so happy. And it's her special day. Let's not make a fuss. Your Aunt Diane and Uncle Robert have done so much for us, Mom had added, her eyes pleading with me to just drop it. It's important we support them. Sophia is family. Their golden niece, always chosen over their own daughter. Back in the present, the scent of Sophia's perfume fades as she releases me. The family dinner table is a stage, and I'm watching a play I've seen too many times. My parents are beaming at Sophia, their faces alight with pride as she recounts Mark's elaborate proposal. My acceptance letter to the local art school, the one I'd tentatively placed by Dad's plate, sits unopened, ignored. It's just not very practical, is it, dear? Mom says later, when I finally, nervously bring it up. Her smile is apologetic, her eyes flicking towards Sophia, who's now dramatically describing bridesmaid dress dilemmas. Art is a wonderful hobby, Maya, Dad chimes in, patting my hand. But you need a real career path, something stable like accounting or even teaching. Uncle Robert, ever the opportunist, leans back in his chair, a smug look on his face. She's got potential, sure, he says, his gaze lingering on me with a hint of something I now recognize as predatory. But potential doesn't pay the bills. Sophia, now she's got drive. She knows what she wants. Aunt Diane, ever the martyr, sighs dramatically. We just worry about your future, darling. We want you to be secure, happy, like Sophia. Her concern is as fake as the pearls around her neck. I remember now, in my past life, stumbling upon her tearful, hushed phone calls, the ones that hinted at a lover, at a life far removed from the devoted wife she pretended to be. I murmur an excuse, something about needing to check on the cake, and escape to my childhood bedroom. The pink walls, the faded posters of bands I'd long outgrown, it all feels like a museum of a life that wasn't quite mine. My fingers trail over the worn wooden desk. I pull open the drawer, and there they are. A stack of rejection letters from art schools further afield, the ones my parents had deemed too expensive, or too far. Hidden beneath them, a collection of wedding planning books, dog-eared and highlighted, research for Sophia's perfect day. My eyes land on a framed photo on my nightstand, a family picnic. I'm there, a blurry figure in the background, partially obscured by a tree. In another, at a holiday gathering, I'm at the very edge of the group, almost cropped out. It was a pattern. Always on the periphery, always an afterthought. I remember the gnawing emptiness of my past life, the deep-seated belief that I was worthless. It wasn't just in my head. This family, they'd systematically, skillfully made me invisible. But the memories aren't just of pain anymore. They're of clarity. I remember Uncle Robert's hushed, angry phone calls about permits and inspectors. Shady business deals, I realize now. I remember the name whispered on Aunt Diane's illicit calls, Mr. Henderson, the family's financial advisor. Information I'd been too naive, too self-absorbed in my own misery to understand back then. I look at my reflection in the dusty mirror. 16-year-old Maya stares back, her eyes wide and uncertain. But behind them, I feel the weight of my 23 years, the phantom ache of a life cut short. Never again, I whisper, the words of vow, a promise to that forgotten girl. My gaze falls to the loose floorboard under my bed, a secret hiding place from childhood. I pry it open. And there it is, a small leather-bound journal. My journal from my past life. I'd started it after the backup bridesmaid incident, a place to pour out all the hurt, all the anger, but it became more. It became a record. Every overheard conversation, every suspicious incident, every little secret I'd stumbled upon. Things I hadn't understood the significance of then. Flipping through the familiar pages, the spidery handwriting of my younger, yet older self staring back at me, I see it clearly. These aren't just ramblings of a hurt girl. These are weapons. And this time, I know how to use them. This isn't just about survival. This is about retribution. The game has already begun, but this time, I'm rewriting the rules. I walk back into that lion's den of a dining room, a serene smile plastered on my face. It's amazing how easy it is to fool them when they already have a preconceived notion of who I am. The quiet, slightly awkward, artistic one. The one who's easily overlooked. This time, though, the quietness is a cloak. The awkwardness a carefully constructed shield. Inside, I'm a scientist, and this family is my petri dish. Every condescending comment from Aunt Diane about my future prospects, every dismissive gesture from Uncle Robert when I dare to voice an opinion, every time my parents interrupt me to praise Sophia, it all goes into the file. My internal mental file for now. Sophia, basking in the glow of her engagement announcement and the undivided attention of the room, turns to me, her eyes sparkling with that familiar false sweetness. "Oh, Maya, darling," she gushes, laying a perfectly manicured hand on my arm. "You're so artistic. You simply must design my wedding invitations. It would mean so much to me. And, it'll be great exposure for you." Free labor, dressed up as an opportunity. The exact same line she used in my past life. I remember the hours I poured into those designs, intricate floral patterns that perfectly matched her enchanted garden theme. And I remember, with a fresh surge of cold anger, seeing those same designs, my designs, featured in a bridal magazine 6 months after her wedding, under her name. It was the foundation of Sophia's successful party planning business, a business built on my stolen talent. This time, I smile back, my expression radiating grateful humility. Oh, Sophia, I'd be honored, I say, my voice soft, almost reverent. Anything for your special day. Let her think I'm still that naive, eager to please girl. It'll make my real work so much easier. The weeks that follow are a masterclass in observation. I become a ghost in my own home, a silent witness to the intricate, toxic dance of my family. I see Uncle Robert in Dad's study, his voice low and persuasive, guiding Dad's business decisions, subtly steering contracts towards his own shell companies. I remember how Dad's once thriving business slowly crumbled in my past life, how he'd aged a decade in a few short years, oblivious to the fact that his own brother-in-law was the architect of his ruin. Aunt Diane, meanwhile, is a whisper in my mother's ear, a constant stream of subtle digs and feigned concerns about me. Is Maya eating enough, dear? She seems so withdrawn. Or that art teacher of hers, is she really qualified? We wouldn't want Maya getting any unrealistic ideas. Planting seeds of doubt, ensuring I remain marginalized, ensuring my mother's focus stays on Sophia, the shining example of what a daughter should be. Then comes the girls' shopping trip, a tradition I'd always dreaded. Aunt Diane, Mom, Sophia, and me, trailing through expensive boutiques, the air thick with unspoken comparisons and judgments. Sophia, as always, is the star, trying on ridiculously priced dresses, while Aunt Diane and Mom coo their approval. I'm watching Sophia more closely now, remembering a pattern I'd dismissed as carelessness in my past life. In a small, exclusive jewelry store, while the sales assistant is distracted by Aunt Diane's endless questions about diamond clarity, Sophia's hand darts out. Quick as a snake, she palms a pair of delicate sapphire earrings, slipping them into her purse. My breath catches. Just a moment later, the sales assistant, flustered, mentions a missing silver bracelet from the tray Sophia had been admiring. "Oh dear," Aunt Diane says, her eyes immediately flicking to me. "Maya, darling, you weren't looking at that bracelet, were you?" "No, Aunt Diane," I say calmly, meeting her gaze. Sophia chimes in, her voice laced with false concern. "Maya, are you sure? Sometimes you pick things up without realizing, when you're daydreaming." In my past life, I would have stammered, blushed, maybe even apologized, convinced I had somehow misplaced it. I remember at least 2 friendships Sophia had lost because of missing items that mysteriously reappeared in Sophia's possession months later, long after the blame had been firmly fixed on someone else. Her little habit. Kleptomania, I now realize. This time, I just shake my head, a small, sad smile on my face. "No, Sophia, I'm sure." The sales assistant, under pressure, eventually drops it, but the suspicion lingers in the air, a familiar cloud. They need a scapegoat, and I'm always the easiest target. My first real strategic move comes a week later. Sophia is in full bridezilla mode, overwhelmed by the sheer number of decisions. "I just can't handle all these vendors," she wails dramatically during Sunday dinner. "It's a full-time job, and this is my opening." "I can help, Sophia," I offer, my voice full of earnest sincerity. "I'm pretty organized, and I have some free time. I can coordinate with the caterers, the florist, the venue." Aunt Diane looks surprised, then pleased. "Why, Maya, that's very thoughtful of you." Sophia, after a moment of feigned hesitation, "Are you sure you can handle it, sweetie?" Graciously accepts. Access. That's what I need. Access to the contracts, the invoices, the financial information. And they hand it to me on a silver platter. It doesn't take long to find what I'm looking for. Uncle Robert, true to form, is using Sophia's wedding as a massive tax write-off for his construction company. Inflated invoices, payments to non-existent subcontractors, deposits paid from accounts that seem to vanish overnight. And I find the list of small vendors, the florist, the string quartet, the custom invitation printer he'd convinced Sophia to use after I'd designed the initial batch, all of whom are slated to be stiffed, paid only a fraction of what they're owed, or not at all. I remember the whispers in my past life, the stories of local businesses going under after doing work for that awful Robert Maxwell. His bankruptcy had come eventually, but far too late. It had dragged my parents down too. their finances inexplicably entangled with his. This time, I'll make sure the fuse is lit much, much sooner. My art skills, the ones they so casually dismiss, become my greatest weapon. I'm supposedly creating a wedding inspiration portfolio for Sophia, a beautiful binder filled with fabric swatches, color palettes, and sketches. In reality, it's a meticulously organized dossier. I photographed Sophia's stolen sapphire earrings, nestled amongst her other jewelry. I managed to get copies of Uncle Robert's falsified invoices, tucking them into sleeves behind pictures of wedding cakes. I even managed, with a small, discreet digital recorder I'd bought with my saved allowance, to capture snippets of his phone calls from the hallway outside Dad's study calls, where he discusses getting around those pesky building permits and making sure the inspector is taken care of. And Aunt Diane. Her affair with Mr. Henderson, the family financial advisor, is easier to document than I expected. A forgotten art sketchbook left behind in the living room after a family gathering gives me the perfect excuse to retrieve it from Mr. Henderson's office building downtown, where Aunt Diane has financial meetings 2 afternoons a week. A few casually snapped photos on my phone of them lunching a little too intimately at a secluded cafe, a copy of a hotel bill I accidentally find slipped into a magazine at their house. It all goes into my portfolio. They all think I'm just being helpful, the dutiful little cousin, absorbed in ribbons and lace. They have no idea I'm building the scaffold for their gallows. The climax of this particular act in their twisted family drama arrives with predictable cruelty. I'm in the kitchen, supposedly sketching centerpiece ideas, when I overhear their voices from the living room. My parents, Aunt Diane, Uncle Robert. "She's just being difficult, you know," Mom says, her voice heavy with a sigh I know so well. So sensitive. Always comparing herself to Sophia. "It's jealousy, pure and simple," Uncle Robert declares, his tone authoritative. "Sophia is a go-getter. Maya just drifts. She needs to face reality." Then, Aunt Diane's voice, dripping with saccharine concern. "I really think she might benefit from therapy for these attitude problems and this obsession with art. It's not healthy for a young girl to be so intense." The words are like hammer blows, echoes of 1,000 similar conversations from my past. The hurt is still there, a dull ache in my chest, but it's different now. It's overlaid with a cold, clear anger. This time, I don't retreat to my room to cry. This time, I reach into my pocket, my fingers closing around the small digital recorder. I press the button. Let them talk. Let them dig their own graves. I hear Sophia's voice join the chorus. Honestly, I try to include her. I really do. But she's just so mopey. It brings everyone down. I walk back into the living room, my sketchbook in hand, that same serene, slightly vacant smile on my face. "Did you call me?" I ask, my voice perfectly innocent. They exchange startled, guilty glances. "No, darling," Aunt Diane says, recovering quickly. "Just discussing flowers." I nod as if that's the most natural thing in the world. "Oh, okay." I hold up my sketchbook. I had an idea for the altar arrangements." As I prattle on about lilies and baby's breath, watching their relieved, patronizing smiles, I feel the small, hard rectangle of the recorder in my pocket. Their cruelties, their casual dismissals, their utter blindness to who I am. It's all there, preserved, waiting. The game is well and truly underway, and I'm starting to enjoy it. The scene for my first act of carefully orchestrated revenge is, fittingly, our family's monthly Sunday dinner. It's a command performance, a ritual I used to dread. Now, I see it as an opportunity. Tonight, Sophia is glowing, practically vibrating with self-importance. She's been dropping hints all week about a big announcement. I know what's coming. I lived through this exact dinner, this exact humiliation once before. "So," Sophia begins, after Uncle Robert has finished pontificating about his latest, no doubt fraudulent business venture, and Aunt Diane has sufficiently lamented the declining moral standards of today's youth, a rich irony given her extracurricular activities with Mr. Henderson. "Mark and I have finally decided on our bridal party." A hush falls over the table. My mother shoots me a quick, nervous glance, a silent plea for me to behave, to not make a scene, as if I'm the one prone to drama. Sophia clears her throat, her eyes sweeping over her captive audience, deliberately avoiding mine. My maid of honor, of course, will be Tiffany, she announces, referring to the sorority sister who had usurped my planned role in my past life. And my bridesmaids will be Amber, Jessica, and Chloe. Names I vaguely recognize. Girls from her college, girls who barely know her, certainly not in the way I do after years of shared history, shared secrets, most of them hers, which I was expected to keep. The polite applause dies down. My mother, bless her naive heart, actually tries to intervene, her voice soft and hesitant. That's lovely, dear, but what about Maya? Won't you include Maya? Sophia turns to me then, her eyes wide with feigned innocence, a perfectly crafted look of sudden, dawning realization. It's a performance worthy of an Oscar, if Oscars were given for malicious insincerity. Oh, Maya! She exclaims, as if the thought had just occurred to her. She reaches across the table and pats my hand, her touch cold despite the warmth of the room. Silly me, I almost forgot. Of course, Maya can be my backup bridesmaid. She delivers the line with a little giggle, a conspiratorial wink to Tiffany, who's smirking beside her. You know, Sophia continues, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Just in case someone drops out, it's always good to have a spare, right? The table erupts in awkward, strained laughter. Uncle Robert guffaws a little too loudly. Aunt Diane beams at Sophia, her expression clearly saying, "That's my girl, putting that difficult cousin in her place." My father clears his throat and abruptly changes the subject, launching into a monologue about the stock market. Just like last time, the exact same words, the exact same dismissive laughter, the exact same crushing weight of being publicly, deliberately put last. But this Maya doesn't flinch. This Maya doesn't fight back tears. This Maya smiles, a bright, dazzling smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Oh, Sophia, that's so thoughtful of you, I gush, my voice dripping with false gratitude. A backup bridesmaid, that's perfect. It means I can still be involved, but without all the pressure, right? I turn to my mother, my smile unwavering. See, Mom, Sophia always thinks of everything. Sophia looks momentarily thrown, as if she was expecting tears, a tantrum, something to reinforce her narrative of me being the difficult one. Instead, I'm radiating an almost beatific acceptance. I continue, piling on the sweetness. And I can still help you with everything, Sophia. Coordinating the bridesmaid dresses, planning the bachelorette party. I'm actually really good at organizing things. It'll be fun. I managed to inject just the right amount of wounded disappointment into my voice, enough to make me seem vulnerable but not angry. Enough to make them pity me just a little. Aunt Diane nods approvingly. Well, that's very mature of you, Maya, she says, though her eyes still hold that calculating glint. Several other relatives murmur their agreement. Such a good sport. So understanding. Let them think it. Let Sophia bask in her petty victory. Her reign is about to hit a rather significant bump in the road. My secret countermove is already in motion, a plan conceived from the ashes of my past life's misery. Sophia's chosen maid of honor, Tiffany, has a secret. A messy, complicated secret I stumbled upon entirely by accident in my previous existence. Tiffany was having an affair with her married literature professor, a Dr. Alistair Finch. I'd seen them at a quiet, out-of-the-way coffee shop, their heads bent close together, his hand covering hers in a way that was far from academic. Later, I'd overheard Tiffany on a tearful phone call confirming my suspicions. In this new timeline, armed with that knowledge, I set my plan in motion. A few weeks prior, I'd coincidentally run into Tiffany's long-term, very trusting boyfriend, David, at a college art exhibition I knew he'd be attending. We'd struck up a conversation about a mutual acquaintance. I'd casually, oh so innocently, mentioned seeing Tiffany on campus recently, looking very cozy with an older man, distinguished-looking with glasses. I'd even feigned confusion. I wasn't sure if it was her father or perhaps an uncle. They seemed very close. Just a few carefully chosen words, enough to plant a seed of doubt in David's mind. A seed I knew would fester. Simultaneously, I'd reached out to Amber, Jessica, and Chloe, the other chosen bridesmaids. Under the guise of being Sophia's helpful backup, I'd created a group chat to coordinate schedules and dress ideas. In reality, it was my platform to subtly highlight Sophia's increasingly demanding bridezilla behavior. When Sophia insisted on daily 2-hour conference calls to discuss napkin colors, I'd text the group. Sophia's so passionate about getting every detail perfect. Just a heads up, she wants to chat napkins tonight, 9 p.m. Let me know if that works. When Sophia changed the bridesmaid dress style for the third time, demanding a hideous shade of puce, I'd share the new design with a comment like, Sophia has such a unique vision. Can't wait to see how this new color complements her theme. She's so excited for us to order these ASAP. I was the picture of helpfulness, the reliable coordinator, while privately fanning the flames of their resentment. The stage for the public fallout is a chic, overpriced bridal boutique in the city, the kind of place Sophia adores. It's the official bridesmaid dress fitting. Or it's supposed to be. I arrive a few minutes late, feigning car trouble. By the time I walk in, the drama is already unfolding, better than I could have scripted. David, Tiffany's boyfriend, is there, his face pale and furious. He must have followed my breadcrumbs, perhaps even followed Tiffany. He's confronting her, his voice low and shaking, in the middle of the plush, cream-carpeted salon. Sophia is trying to intervene, her voice rising in shrill indignation. This is my dress fitting. How dare you cause a scene? A scene? David explodes, his voice cracking. You want to talk about scenes, Tiffany? How about the scenes you've been having with Professor Finch for the past 6 months? Tiffany gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. The other bridesmaids, Amber and Jessica, Chloe had already texted her excuses, citing a sudden family emergency I may or may not have subtly prompted by mentioning how demanding the fitting schedule was going to be, are watching with wide, horrified eyes. It devolves quickly. Accusations fly. Tears stream down Tiffany's face. Sophia tries to pull David away, screeching about him ruining her perfect day. The boutique owner looks like she's about to have a stroke. The screaming match culminates with Tiffany yanking off the half-pinned bridesmaid dress, throwing it at Sophia, and storming out of the boutique, sobbing, I quit. I quit everything. You can find another maid of honor, Sophia, and another boyfriend for that matter. Silence descends, thick and suffocating, broken only by Sophia's strangled whimpers. Then, Amber's phone buzzes. She glances at it, her face paling. Oh my God, she mutters. Jessica just texted. She's out too. She says she can't handle the stress, and she hates the color puce. Amber looks at Sophia, then at me, then back at Sophia, a look of dawning horror on her face. I think I need to go too, Sophia. This is all too much. And just like that, Amber, the last remaining official bridesmaid, makes her excuses and flees, leaving Sophia standing alone, a monument to shattered entitlement, surrounded by swaths of hideous puce fabric. Sophia finally collapses onto a delicate velvet chaise lounge, her body racked with sobs, mascara carving black tracks down her perfectly powdered cheeks. Her dream bridal party, decimated, 6 months before the wedding. She turns to me then, her eyes red-rimmed and desperate. It's a look I've never seen on her face before, genuine, unadulterated panic. Maya, she chokes out, reaching for my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Maya, you have to help me. You have to be my maid of honor, please. You're the only one left. I gently extract my hand from hers. I look at her, my expression one of calm, regretful sympathy. Oh, Sophia, I say, my voice soft, almost a caress. I really would. But I've already committed to my backup role, remember? You said it yourself, it's always good to have a spare. I pause, letting the words sink in. And honestly, after seeing how much pressure Tiffany and the others were under, I don't think I could possibly take on such important responsibilities at such short notice. You chose them because they were the most qualified, the best fit. I wouldn't want to impose or disappoint you by not living up to their standards. My mother, who had been hovering in the background like a worried ghost, rushes forward. Maya, don't be ridiculous. Of course you'll help your cousin. She needs you. Her voice is sharp, laced with that familiar tone of impending parental disapproval if I don't immediately comply. I turn to my mother, my sweet, sad smile firmly in place. But Mom, I say, my voice the epitome of gentle reason. Sophia specifically said she didn't want me as a real bridesmaid. She made her choices, and I respect that. I wouldn't want her to feel like she had to settle for me just because her first choices changed their minds. I look back at Sophia, her mascara-streaked face, her mouth slightly agape, her eyes filled with a dawning, horrified understanding. She's realizing, perhaps for the first time in her pampered, privileged life, that actions have consequences, and that her little backup cousin might not be so easily dismissed, so easily controlled anymore. The first loop of my silent revenge is complete, and the taste, I have to admit, is exquisitely sweet. Sophia, predictably, doesn't take her public humiliation well. Her first instinct, as always, is to deflect blame, to paint herself as the victim. Within days, the whispers start. Aunt Diane is her primary mouthpiece, of course, her voice dripping with sorrow as she tells anyone who will listen how poor Sophia is being sabotaged. The narrative they spin is that I, consumed by a bitter, twisted jealousy, systematically drove away Sophia's loyal bridesmaids. That I couldn't bear to see my cousin so happy, so successful, while I was, well, just Maya. It's a good story. It would have worked too in my past life. But this Maya is no longer playing defense. This Maya anticipated this exact move. For weeks, ever since Sophia's engagement, I've been subtly cultivating relationships with the extended family. The ones who are usually on the periphery. The ones my immediate family only deign to notice at holidays and funerals. Great Aunt Mildred, with her surprisingly sharp mind and love for gossip. Cousin Thomas, who always felt a little like an outsider himself. I've shared my concerns about Sophia's increasingly erratic behavior, my worry about the pressure she's under, my anxiety about being a good enough backup bridesmaid if, heaven forbid, anything were to happen. I've painted myself as the concerned, slightly overwhelmed, but ultimately loyal younger cousin. So when Aunt Diane's whispers reach them, they're already primed to see Sophia as the unstable one, and me as the unfortunate soul caught in her orbit. Sophia's attempts to paint me as the villain only make her look more unhinged, more desperate. Uncle Robert, however, is a more dangerous adversary. He senses the shifting family dynamics, the subtle erosion of Sophia's, and by extension, his and Diane's power. He decides to take a more direct approach. During another tense family dinner, these are becoming quite the battleground. He fixes me with his predatory stare. "You know, Maya," he begins, his voice deceptively casual. "I've been thinking, all this drama around Sophia's wedding. It seems to have started around the time you began helping out." I meet his gaze, my expression one of wide-eyed innocence. "I don't understand, Uncle Robert. I've just been trying to be supportive." "Supportive?" he scoffs. "Or are you just acting out? Jealous that Sophia's moving on with her life, getting married, being successful while you're... What was it? Oh, yes, your art career. Seems to have stalled before it even began." He says it with a sneer, clearly expecting me to crumble, to revert to the insecure girl he's always known. He's trying to reestablish the old hierarchy, put me back in my place. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment, enjoying the smug, expectant look on his face. Then I smile. A small, calm smile. "Actually, Uncle Robert," I say, my voice clear and steady. "Speaking of my art career, I received some rather good news this week." I reach into my bag and pull out a crisp, official-looking envelope. I slide it across the table to my father. I've been offered a full academic scholarship to the Rhode Island School of Design for their undergraduate painting program. The silence that follows is golden. Dad picks up the letter, his eyes scanning it, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief, then to a flicker of something I haven't seen directed at me in years, pride. Mom gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. Aunt Diane's perfectly applied lipstick looks suddenly garish against her pale face. Uncle Robert's jaw tightens, his eyes narrowing. Sophia just stares, her fork clattering onto her plate. Res D, one of the top art schools in the country. Not just some hobby, not just some impractical dream, a full scholarship. It's a blow they didn't see coming. I'd applied in secret, using the portfolio I'd been building since my rebirth, filled with work that was years beyond what a 16-year-old should be capable of producing. The skills from my past life, the raw talent I'd always possessed but never had the confidence to truly own, combined with the maturity and focus of my reborn self, it had created something exceptional. They'd dismissed me for so long, they had no idea who I'd become. The second revenge loop, however, begins with a familiar, sickening lurch of deja vu. I'm checking my online banking, a habit I'd adopted in my past life after Sophia's financial carelessness had nearly ruined me, and there it is. A series of charges I don't recognize. Charges to exclusive bridal boutiques, deposits for high-end caterers, even a down payment on a ridiculously extravagant honeymoon package. All on my credit card, my freshly issued, supposedly secure student credit card, which I'd only used once to buy art supplies. Sophia. It has to be. In my past life, she'd done the same thing, opening cards in my name, running up thousands in debt, leaving my credit score in tatters just as I was trying to get my own life started. It had taken me years to claw my way back. This time, I'm prepared. I'd been monitoring my credit report weekly. I'd placed fraud alerts on all my accounts. The moment those suspicious charges appeared, I was on the phone to the bank, reporting the identity theft, filing a police report. It's cleaner this time, faster. I have the knowledge, the vocabulary, the cold, hard fury that I lacked before. A few days later, during another strained family gathering, Sophia is trying desperately to recruit new bridesmaids from our bewildered, distant cousins. My phone rings. I let it go to voicemail, then listen to it with a perfectly feigned expression of concern. "Oh dear," I say, my voice trembling slightly. That was the events manager from the Grand Ballroom. Apparently, there are some payment issues with Sophia's venue deposit. They said the credit card on file was declined. I look at Sophia, my eyes wide with innocent confusion. "Sophia, didn't you say Uncle Robert was handling all the venue payments?" Sophia pales, her eyes darting nervously towards her father. Uncle Robert blusters, "Nonsense! Everything is perfectly under control." "Well," I continue, my voice full of helpful concern, "the manager, a Mr. Albright, seemed quite insistent. He said if the outstanding balance isn't cleared by tomorrow, they'll have to release the date. Perhaps you should call him directly, Sophia?" I watch her face as the implications sink in. The stolen credit card, the one she thought was her secret lifeline, is useless. Her financial house of cards, built on my identity, is collapsing. And I'm the one innocently suggesting she make the call that will expose her. The beauty of it is almost poetic. Later that night, alone in my room, the victory feels complicated. I find myself pulling out that old, leather-bound journal from my past life. Not the new one, the one filled with strategies and evidence, but the original. The one filled with the desperate, heartbroken scribblings of a girl who just wanted to be loved, to be seen, to be accepted by her family. "Why don't they like me?" One entry pleads, the ink slightly smeared as if by tears. "What's wrong with me? Why am I never good enough?" A wave of unexpected grief washes over me. Not for the family I'm dismantling, but for her. For that lost, broken version of myself. For the years she spent believing she was worthless. The years she spent trying to earn their affection, only to be met with dismissal and disdain. I allow myself this one night. I mourn for the girl who died believing their lies. I cry for her wasted potential, for her unfulfilled dreams. Then, with a strange sense of ceremony, I take the journal out to the small, rusty barbecue in our neglected backyard. I light a match, and I watch as the pages curl and blacken, the words of my past pain turning to ash and smoke, drifting up into the indifferent night sky. It's a release, a letting go. When I walk back inside, the cold resolve has returned, stronger now, purified by that brief, necessary fire. The climax of this act arrives with Sophia in full-blown panic mode. The venue is threatening to cancel. The caterer is demanding payment. Her carefully constructed wedding is unraveling at the seams. And she does what she always does when cornered. She turns to manipulation. She convenes an emergency family meeting, just my parents and me. Uncle Robert and Aunt Diane are conspicuously absent, probably busy trying to shred their own incriminating documents. Sophia is in tears, her face blotchy, her voice hoarse. Mom, Dad, she sobs, turning to my parents, her eyes pleading. You have to help me. Maya Osis. After everything this family has done for her, all the support we've given her, it's the least she can do to help pay for the wedding. She has that scholarship money. She can afford it. My parents look at me, their expressions a mixture of pity for Sophia and a dawning, uncomfortable guilt. It's the same emotional blackmail they've used on me my entire life. Family helps family. Don't be selfish, Maya. But this time, I don't back down. I don't apologize. I don't offer to sacrifice my own future for hers. I simply look at Sophia, then at my parents, my gaze calm and unwavering. Support? I ask, my voice quiet but firm. What support are you referring to, Sophia? Are you talking about the support I received when I was expected to work 3 jobs to help pay for your first wedding venue, only to be discarded when someone better came along? Or the support of being your backup bridesmaid? A public humiliation designed to remind me of my place? I turn to my parents. Are you talking about the support of having my dreams dismissed as impractical hobbies? The support of being constantly compared to my cousin and found lacking? The support of being the family scapegoat, the free therapist, the unpaid servant for as long as I can remember? I reach into my bag again. This time, it's not a scholarship letter. It's a slim folder. I've actually been keeping a list, I say, my voice devoid of emotion. Every time I was excluded, every time my achievements were overlooked, every time I was used for free labor, my talents exploited without credit or compensation. It's all here. Dates, times, specific incidents. I place the folder on the coffee table in front of them. So please, I say, my gaze sweeping over their stunned faces. Refresh my memory. Tell me exactly what support I owe this family. The silence that fills the room is heavy, suffocating. Sophia stares at the folder as if it's a venomous snake. My mother's face is pale, her eyes filled with a horrified understanding that is dawning far, far too late. My father just looks down at his hands, his shoulders slumped. For the first time, truly, they are beginning to see. Not the daughter they imagined or the daughter they wanted me to be, but the daughter they actually created, forged in the crucible of their neglect and their cruelty. And she is not asking for their love anymore. She is demanding an accounting. Just when I think the universe has thrown all its curveballs, another one comes sailing in, this time wrapped in a far more promising package. It's a Tuesday afternoon, and I'm in the slightly cluttered, wonderfully chaotic art room at school, cleaning brushes and trying to ignore the knot of anxiety in my stomach about the ongoing family implosion. Miss Rodriguez, my art teacher, a woman with fiery red hair, paint-splattered overalls, and a no-nonsense attitude I've come to deeply respect, approaches me, a rare, almost excited gleam in her eye. Maya, she says, her voice a little more subdued than usual. Can I have a word? There's something I need to discuss with you. We sit down at her desk, surrounded by student projects in various states of completion. She pulls out a glossy brochure, the kind that usually advertises expensive summer programs. I know you've already been accepted to RISD, and that's fantastic, truly, she begins. But an old colleague of mine, she runs a very exclusive study abroad program for exceptionally gifted young artists in Florence. She slides the brochure across the desk. It's by invitation only. They rarely take anyone still in high school, but I sent them your portfolio, the new pieces, the ones you've been working on this year, and... She pauses, a slow smile spreading across her face. They're not just offering you a place, Maya. They're offering a full scholarship. Tuition, accommodation, a stipend for living expenses. For 2 years. Florence. Italy. A full scholarship. In my past life, I'd dreamed of Florence. Of seeing the Renaissance masters up close. Of breathing that art-infused air. But it had been an impossible dream. Buried under the weight of family obligations. Of Sophia's wedding, of my own crippling self-doubt. I'd never even heard of this program. How could I have? I was too busy trying to be the daughter, the cousin, the person they wanted me to be, to ever truly pursue what I wanted. The twist, the beautiful, ironic twist, is that my rebirth, the memories of my past life's artistic struggles and small triumphs, fused with the raw talent I'd always had, and now this new, hard won maturity, it had coalesced into something extraordinary. My art wasn't just good for a 16-year-old, it was significant. Miss Rodriguez had seen it, and now, apparently, so had a panel of discerning art critics in Florence. I was being fast tracked, offered opportunities that, in my past life, I wouldn't have even known how to dream of. You don't have to decide right away, of course, Miss Rodriguez is saying, her voice gentle, understanding my stunned silence. But Maya, this is a once in a lifetime chance. A once in a lifetime chance. Or, in my case, a once in two lifetimes chance. And this time, I'm going to take it. The next family meeting, and it's becoming a weekly horror show, is ostensibly about Sophia's catastrophic wedding budget, or lack thereof. Uncle Robert and Aunt Diane are actually present this time, their faces grim, the usual arrogance replaced by a thin veneer of desperation. Sophia looks like she hasn't slept in days, her eyes puffy, her usual glamorous sheen noticeably absent. My parents just look tired, defeated. They're trying to pressure me again, of course. Subtle hints about family loyalty, about my moral obligation to help Sophia out of this mess she's created. Uncle Robert even tries a new tactic, appealing to my non-existent desire for his approval. Maya, if you could just see your way to contributing a portion of that scholarship money, I'm sure we could find a way to make it worth your while. Perhaps a small investment in your future art career down the line? Bribery. How novel. I let them talk. I let them lay out all their desperate, manipulative arguments. Then, when there's a lull, when they're all looking at me expectantly, I drop my first bombshell. Actually, I say, my voice calm and clear, speaking of my art career and my scholarships, I won't be attending RSD next year. A flicker of hope in their eyes. Are they thinking I've given up? That I'm finally caving? No, I continue, dashing that hope before it can fully form. I've received a better offer, a full scholarship plus living expenses to study painting in Florence. For 2 years, I'll be leaving in August. Right before Sophia's rescheduled, drastically downscaled, and increasingly hypothetical wedding. The stunned silence in the room is a symphony to my ears. Florence. Not just a prestigious art school in another state, but another continent. It's a level of escape, of success they can't comprehend. The panic starts to creep into their faces then. Real panic. They're realizing, too late, that the pawn they've been sacrificing so casually for years has somehow transformed into a queen, and she's about to sweep their pieces right off the board. They've been dismissing, using, and abusing someone who, at 16, has already achieved more on her own merit than any of them have in their entire self-serving, manipulative lives. But I'm not done, not by a long shot. This is the unveiling, after all. And speaking of finances, Uncle Robert, I say, turning my attention to him. His face is already a mask of barely suppressed fury. I think you should know something. This is the second part of the twist, my secret weapon. For the past few months, I say, my voice still calm, still measured, I've been collaborating with a documentary filmmaker, a rather well-known one, actually. She specializes in exposing, well, let's call them creative accounting practices within family businesses. Construction companies in particular are a favorite subject of hers. Uncle Robert's eyes narrow. Aunt Diane gasps, her hand flying to her pearls, real ones this time. I notice, probably a recent gift from Mr. Henderson. I provided her with some initial documentation, I continue. Things I'd stumbled upon regarding your construction company, Uncle Robert. Invoices, tax filings, building permit discrepancies, that sort of thing. I pause, letting the implications sink in. She and her team have been conducting their own, very discreet investigation for several months now. Apparently, they've found quite a lot of additional material, enough for a rather compelling story. The color drains from Uncle Robert's face. He knows. He knows what they'll find. The fraud, the tax evasion, the kickbacks. It's all there. A ticking time bomb under his carefully constructed empire. and I'm the one who handed them the detonator. Of course, I add, as if it's an afterthought. Her investigation also uncovered some interesting entanglements. Aunt Diane, I believe you're familiar with a Mr. Henderson? The filmmaker found your joint financial ventures particularly illuminating, especially how they seem to have benefited from my parents' rather sudden and inexplicable financial downturn a few years ago. Aunt Diane looks like she's about to faint. My parents are staring at her, then at Uncle Robert, then back at me. Their faces a mixture of horror, disbelief, and a dawning, sickening comprehension. The people they trusted, their own family, had been systematically bleeding them dry, and I, the difficult, ungrateful daughter, am the one showing them the truth. And Sophia, I say, turning to my cousin, who looks small and insignificant now, her earlier panic replaced by a deer-in-the-headlights terror. Regarding those unauthorized charges on my credit card, I have, of course, been in contact with my lawyer and the police. The credit card fraud case is moving forward. Apparently, identity theft, especially when it crosses state lines to defraud financial institutions, is taken quite seriously. Criminal charges are pending. It's all out. The full, unvarnished truth. They thought I was just defending myself, reacting to their attacks. They had no idea I was on the offensive, that I'd been systematically, patiently building a case that would not just protect me, but would dismantle their entire corrupt power structure. And all the while, I'd positioned myself as the victim of their abuse, which, in truth, I was. But I was a victim who had learned to fight back, with strategy, with evidence, and with a ruthlessness they had taught me. I stand up then. The meeting, as far as I'm concerned, is over. I'll be leaving for Florence at the end of August, I announce, my voice ringing with a finality that brooks no argument. Obviously, I'll need to focus on preparing for my studies, my art career. So I'm afraid I'll have to withdraw any and all support for Sophia's wedding. I simply won't have the time. The desperation in the room is palpable now. It's a thick, cloying thing, like the cheap perfume Sophia favors. They've lost their scapegoat. They've lost their free labor. They've lost their ATM machine. And they're about to lose a whole lot more. Their reputations, their businesses, their freedom. All because they underestimated the quiet girl in the corner. All because they never bothered to look beyond their own reflections. My work here is almost done. They try, of course, one last desperate attempt to regain control, to pull me back into their toxic orbit. A few days after my revelations, they stage an intervention. It's almost laughably predictable. I walk into the living room, the very same room where my past life's trauma began with Sophia's first engagement announcement. And there they are. My parents, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and forced parental authority. Uncle Robert attempting to project an air of menacing calm, though his eyes betray his panic. And Aunt Diane dabbing at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, ready to deploy the waterworks. They cycle through the classic hits of manipulation, a desperate medley of their greatest emotional weapons. First, guilt. Maya, how could you do this to your family? Mom begins, her voice trembling. After everything we've done for you? Don't you have any loyalty, any sense of obligation? I look at her, my expression unreadable. Obligation to what, Mother? I ask quietly. To be your scapegoat? To enable your denial? Loyalty is a two-way street. It's earned, not demanded. Then comes gaslighting, Uncle Robert's specialty. You're remembering things wrong, Maya, he says, his voice smooth, practiced. You've always been imaginative, highly sensitive. You're twisting things, blowing them out of proportion. We've always had your best interests at heart. My best interests? I counter, a small, humorless smile playing on my lips. Like when you advised Dad to invest in that can't-miss property development that turned out to be a sinkhole for his savings, while your own accounts mysteriously swelled? Or was it when you helped him restructure his business, leading to massive layoffs and a near bankruptcy for him, while you siphoned off his most profitable clients? My imagination is quite vivid, Uncle, but even I couldn't invent that level of duplicity. His face models, a flush creeping up his neck. He knows I know him. Aunt Diane tries bribery, her voice thick with false tears. Darling, if it's about this Florence nonsense, We can talk about it. We'll pay for a local art school, the best one. You can stay here with your family. We can fix this. We can be a family again. Fix this? I echo. Aunt Diane, this isn't a leaky faucet. This is years of systemic abuse and exploitation, and Florence isn't nonsense. It's my future, a future I'm choosing on my own terms. As for being a family again, were we ever truly one? The question hangs in the air, heavy and unanswered. Finally, threats. Uncle Robert, his composure cracking, resorts to his usual bluster. You think you're so clever, Maya, but you're still a child. You need this family. You walk away from us, you walk away from everything. We'll cut you off. You'll have nothing. No support, no safety net. I almost laugh. Cut me off? I say, my voice dangerously soft. Uncle Robert, you seem to be under the delusion that I'm currently on. What support are you referring to? The kind that uses my credit for fraudulent purchases? Or the kind that belittles my ambitions and undermines my self-worth at every turn? As for a safety net, I've learned to be my own. It's far more reliable. Just as Uncle Robert is about to explode, the door bursts open and Sophia rushes in right on cue. She's a mess. Her hair is disheveled, her expensive clothes rumpled, her face tear-streaked and desperate. She flings herself at my feet, literally. It's a theatrical display of despair that, in my past life, would have guilt-tripped me into submission. Maya, oh Maya, please! She wails, clutching at my jeans. You have to help me. My wedding, it's ruined. Everything's falling apart. Please, Maya, you're the only one who can fix this. I'll make you my maid of honor. My real maid of honor, I swear. We can plan it all again just like you wanted. Please. This is it. The moment of ultimate capitulation on her part, the desperate plea from the dethroned princess, and here comes my first, truly devastating face-to-face no. I look down at her, my expression calm, almost detached. I gently remove her hands from my legs. Sophia, I say, my voice even, devoid of triumph, devoid of pity. I seem to remember you promising me that exact same thing once before. Maid of honor. My dream, you called it. And then, when someone you deemed better came along, I was relegated to backup. Humiliated in front of everyone, I shake my head, a slow, deliberate movement. Trust, Sophia, once broken so thoroughly, cannot be rebuilt with empty promises made in a moment of desperation. You don't want me. You want a solution, a quick fix. And I am no longer in the business of fixing your mistakes. She stares up at me, her mouth agape, disbelief warring with dawning horror in her eyes. She's never heard no from me before. Not a real, unequivocal no. Uncle Robert, seeing his last bargaining chip failing, plays his final desperate card. He turns to my father, his voice laced with venom. David, he snarls, if you don't get your daughter under control, if she proceeds with this madness, consider our business partnership over. I'll ruin you. You'll lose everything. My father flinches, his face paling. But before he can respond, I step forward. Uncle Robert, I say, my voice like ice. I believe the term you're looking for is attempting to obstruct a federal investigation. And witness intimidation. Both rather serious offenses, I'm told. I hold up my phone, the red recording light glowing softly. This entire conversation, including your threats against my father, is being recorded. It will be added to the already substantial pile of evidence the authorities have regarding your business practices. I suggest you choose your next words very, very carefully. His face, already mottled, drains of all color. He looks from my phone to my face, and for the first time, I see genuine fear in his eyes. He's a bully, a coward at heart, and he finally realizes he's cornered. He's been playing checkers, and I've been playing chess. Checkmate. The final confrontation, the one I've been both dreading and anticipating, comes from my parents. After Uncle Robert and Aunt Diane have retreated, defeated and silent, my parents turn to me, their faces a mask of pain and confusion. Maya, Dad begins, his voice hoarse, please. We made mistakes. We see that now. But can't you find it in your heart to be the bigger person? To forgive us? To forgive your family? We love you, Maya, Mom adds, tears streaming down her face. We never meant to hurt you. Can't we just put this all behind us? Start over? Their words, the same emotional manipulation that kept me trapped for so long in my past life, wash over me. But they no longer have the same power. I am no longer that desperate, approval seeking child. I look at them, my parents, the two people who should have been my staunchest defenders, my safest harbor, and I feel a profound sadness, not for myself, not anymore, but for them, for their blindness, for the love they were incapable of giving, and the daughter they never truly knew. Being the bigger person, I say, my voice quiet but unshakable, doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean shouldering the blame for other people's failings. And forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't require me to continue being your victim. I take a deep breath. I do forgive you, I say, and the words surprisingly feel true. I forgive you for not knowing better, for being too weak, or too scared, or too self-absorbed to see what was happening right in front of you. I forgive you for the pain you caused because I understand now that it came from your own brokenness, not from any inherent lack in me. Their faces soften, a flicker of hope in their eyes. But I'm not finished. But, I continue, my voice firm, forgiveness does not mean forgetting, and it does not mean reconciliation on your terms. It does not mean I will ever again allow you or anyone in this family to treat me as less than I am worth. It does not mean I will sacrifice my future, my happiness, my well-being, to maintain the illusion of a happy family that never truly existed. I stand up, a sense of calm, of profound and settled peace, washing over me. I will not be attending Sophia's wedding, if it even happens. I will not be providing any further assistance, financial or otherwise. I will be leaving for Italy in August as planned. I am going to pursue my dreams. I am going to build a life for myself, a life where I am valued, where I am respected, where I am free. Mom sobs, a broken, desolate sound. But Maya, if you leave, if you turn your back on us, we'll have no choice. We'll have to disown you. The words, once the ultimate threat, now hold no power over me. I look at her, a faint, sad smile on my lips. Mother, I say gently, you already did that a long, long time ago. You just never bothered to make it official. Their final pleas, their desperate promises to change, to make things right, fall on deaf ears. I see them now, not as a child sees her parents, but as an adult sees flawed, fallible human beings. And I know with a certainty that settles deep in my bones that they are incapable of the kind of change I would need to ever truly trust them again. I turn and walk out of the living room, out of that house filled with ghosts and bad memories. I don't look back. The door clicks shut behind me, a sound of finality, of closure. I am walking away from their drama, their toxicity, their endless cycle of pain. I am walking towards my own life, and for the first time in either life, I feel completely, utterly, and gloriously free.